Hi again. In this tip, I'm going to show you guys a really quick and easy way to create a series of pipes using some of Cinema 4D's really basic tools. This is going to be a very basic tip, so here we go. What we're aiming for is that look that you might see at a power plant or on a ship, where there's a series of pipes going in the same direction, maybe making a few 90-degree turns along their way. So let's start by grabbing our spline tool and creating a linear spline, and we're going to do this from the side view. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and we're going to turn on snapping. We're going to turn on work plane snap, grid point snap, so that way we can easily quantize our lines to this grid. So let's say the pipes come from somewhere far beyond, and they come out to beyond a wall, and then they go down, and then they need to go to a step, go down, and then they run along the floor. So if we were to look at this from the 3D view, we can actually see our stepped spline. Doesn't really look like much yet. But now we're going to sweep it with a circle shape. So we can create a circular spline, and then we can create a sweep NURBS object, and we can take our circle, place it in the sweep NURBS, and now we have a pipe. So we can just scale it down a little bit to get the scale we're looking for, and as you can see, the Phong shading is a little strange there, but that's okay. And the first thing we're going to have to do is make this a little more realistic, because pipes don't normally bend at this angle. So what we can do is turn off the sweep NURBS temporarily, go to point mode, and we can select the points at each bend. So we have these 4 points selected. We can now right click and go to the chamfer option. So we can just grab that, and this tool essentially takes a point of a spline and rounds it. So if I click and drag, you can see that I can create a perfect round right where that is. There's also a flat option, so you can sort of bevel the point instead. But for now, let's turn the sweep NURBS back on and do that chamfer while we still have those points selected. And you can see that immediately we get a look that looks a little bit more like a bent pipe. Now this is fine if you just want a smooth bent pipe, but it's pretty unrealistic to find something like this on a ship or in a power plant. Some workmen would have had to join all of these pipes with sort of 90-degree fittings. So here's how we can replicate that. The first thing I'd want to do is reduce the number of edges. By default, there's way too much geometry here for what we want to do. So I'm going to choose the circle, adaptive points, and I'm going to take that up to 15 or so, and I think I'll do the same for the spline. So now we have a lot less geometry to work with, so it's a little bit easier to see. Now that we have this, we can create these fittings, but before we do that, we have to actually convert this to an editable object. Right now it's still parametric, so we have to choose the make editable. Shortcut for that would be C. And it gives us a sweep NURBS object with 2 caps. We can get rid of the caps. We don't really need those right now. So we have this sweep NURBS object. We can look at it from the side view, and we can sort of zoom into where these bends are. Now what we want is we want some straight cuts in the geometry a little bit further beyond where each bend is. So it's difficult to explain, so I'll just go ahead and make the cuts. I'm going to hit K for my knife tool. I'm going to use line mode. I do not want to restrict to my selection, and I do not want to do visible only. I want to do all. So I can just hold shift to get a straight line and cut, and then do the same thing here, and just go along my object, adding these extra straight cuts next to each fitting. Now if this was a production piece, you'd definitely want to make sure all the cuts are the same distance away, but I'm just doing this quickly for the tutorial. So when we have all of these cut now, we can very easily use the rectangular selection tool, selecting all elements, and we can just select each bend. Now if we go back to the perspective view, we can sort of complete the effect by just doing an extrude. So with all these polygons selected, we can use the Extrude tool and we can just extrude the fitting out a little bit. We could take this even further by deselecting the final edge. So I'm just holding down Control as I click to deselect. And then once we have that done, we can extrude inwards. So this is it's a pretty basic example, but it's a really quick and easy way to get a pipe shape. And this will work for, pipes of any configuration. For instance, we can do the same thing with a spline that was sort of shaped at a strange angle like that. The Chamfer tool would work for that as well. It would just figure out what angle it needs to be. It's good for angles other than just 90 degrees. So I hope you enjoyed that tip. It's been useful for me in the past. I haven't had to model anything like this recently, but maybe it'll be useful to you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later.